You know, ladies and gentlemen, Bungie never fails to impress. Whatever it comes to corporate greed, whatever it comes to some of the biggest mistakes we've seen in the gaming industry, Bungie's name is always going to be at the top or near the top of accusations or whatever the case may be against the company and different forms of greed that they showcase or just pure idiocy. Now, Bungie seems to be at the top of that list again because apparently Bungie is pissing off their Destiny 2 players. I don't know if they're pissing off their Destiny 2 players because they're riding on Marathon or hoping that Marathon is going to save the company, considering they're getting absorbed officially into PlayStation Studios and they're no longer their own kind of autonomous studio at this point. Regardless, Destiny 2 players are now accusing Bungie of something pretty bad, considering Bungie just got through a crazy amount of bad PR with all the stolen art and whatnot, which, by the way, has never been addressed outside of the initial statement. But players are accusing Bungie of secretly moving a stunning free armor set into the Eververse store so that players have to pay real money for it instead. So apparently, here's the scoop. They were going to initially, or I should say they advertised a suit of armor that seemed to be for free. It seemed to be part of the Iron Banner PvP event, but apparently they ended up getting something completely different, and instead they are now having to pay money for the armor set that was initially supposed to be for free. At least that's what players thought anyway. So in any case, between a systemic overhaul that the player base hates and a list of bugs that frankly beggar belief, Destiny 2 is currently in perhaps the worst shape of its history. Now, just a little bit of history for me. I mean, I loved Destiny 1. I played Destiny 1 like crazy. And then when Destiny 2 came out, I played it to the initial end game, and then I kind of just like gave up on it. Honestly, I completely dropped Destiny 2, but I was big into Destiny 1. I thought it was a very, very good game. But in any case, which you've been paying attention, the game's ability to self-immolate is truly something, and yet Bungie still seems determined to find new ways to take L's. This time, it's the greed. It's always the greed, okay? Like these studios, these corporations in the gaming industry. I mean, look at we got Nintendo charging day one DLC for their upcoming Pokemon game. We got Nintendo doing, what is it, $10, $20, $30 DLC for Donkey Kong, not even less than a month after the game came out. This game took forever for them to make, and now suddenly, in less than a month, they made an entire DLC that they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for. Yeah, you could pretty much consider that to be cut content. You have all these other corporations doing something exactly similar. Look at Bloodlines, for example. Bloodlines got so much backlash for doing day one DLC. They were trying to lock two clans behind a $30 DLC on day one, literally cut content, and people were giving them shit for it. So it is the greed. The corporate greed is running rampant throughout the gaming industry. It's one of the biggest problems by far affecting the industry overall. But the studio stands accused of taking a very cool new armor set, which has been intended to be a reward for the returning Iron Banner activity, and instead placing it inside the Eververse store, where it sells for 1,500 silver per character, which is $15 in real life money. The shambles go back to September 9th when the Destiny 2 team announced the return of the Iron Banner PvP mode, with new weapons to earn and incredibly new cool sets of armor. A couple of days later, though, Bungie unveiled the Iron Banner armor, and it was in fact reprised armor, which is to say a reskin of old armor, and not an especially impressive one in the eyes of Destiny 2 aficionados. And then the disappointing walk back from the incredibly cool to old hand-me-down was a bummer for players looking for new gear. The real trouble, however, though, began when concept artist Ben Lowe posted images of the Gladius Titan armor to his ArtStation page. This concept art is basically identical to what ultimately ended up in the Eververse store, other than for the fact that it has the Iron Banner signature tree symbol on the chest pieces. This is his work. So this is the gear that they're accusing Destiny of basically keeping away from the Iron Banner event and basically trying to sell it in the store, you know, instead of offering it for free as part of the event. People really like this piece of gear. People were really interested in this piece of gear, and instead they got just absolute trash. You can see the drawing here in the concept art, and if you scroll down, it says this courtesy of Tim Clark is the Gladius Titan set. You can see here, this is basically the same piece of gear, right? This is like literally almost a one-for-one in terms of what eventually ended up making it into the game. So now with all this being said, as you can see, the Iron Banner tree is visible across the midriff, as is the fiery glowing effect, which is standard for Iron Banner sets. It catches light when the event is happening. Here's a closer look. So you can see here, it obviously inflames during the event, and when the event is not on, the flames go away, and it becomes just like a standard, you know, chess piece. And then the obvious conclusion for a great many Destiny 2 players is that the Gladius Eververse exclusive set was originally meant for Iron Banner, but was taken out into and put into the microtransaction store and replaced with a reskin so that Bungie could squeeze money out of it. Milking the cow dry before Marathon comes out, says another Redditor. With our current trajectory, it doesn't seem like the path is changing anytime soon. I think this franchise is over by next summer. The writing is on the wall, and they don't seem to have the appetite for a forsaken turnaround, nor the community for that matter. Now, in terms of Destiny, it still has pretty decent numbers. If you go over to SteamDB, the game does pretty decent on Steam. However, it's not decent enough for the size of company that is Bungie, right? It's not decent enough for the kind of shooter game that is Bungie. Now, maybe most of their players are on PlayStation. You can argue that. But at this point, I think it's pretty evident that the Destiny 2 community is getting very thin, and they are trying to milk it for whatever they possibly can before their next game comes out. Perhaps they're hoping that Marathon ends up taking over so much that that's going to be their next cash cow. Or if Marathon ends up flopping, maybe they're hoping that the amount of people that play that game combined with the amount of people that play Destiny will bring them something closer to their original numbers and something they can milk for the next 5 to 10 years. But I think we all can pretty much agree that Marathon, I don't think is going to be that game that Bungie's going to be able to rely on. Sure, people out of curiosity might check out the game in the beginning, but how many people are actually going to stick with it? How many people are going to stay around to actually play the game and to be monetizable? That's the question that I think a lot of people have here. And this is how you know the game is actively losing money hand over fist, says another Redditor. They're essentially willing to burn every last ounce of goodwill that they have just to keep the lights on a bit more until they can push Marathon out the door. Now, that's to assume that Bungie even has goodwill to burn, considering the amount of drama that this company seems to get in, and quite often, I don't think they have a lot of goodwill to burn. I think a lot of people are pretty much sick of Bungie, which is why PlayStation had to take away their autonomy at this point. You know, PlayStation, when they took over Bungie, they were letting them run as an independent studio, but that's no longer the case. Sony and PlayStation Studios has completely taken over their autonomy, and now Bungie has to do everything that they're told, which is why you're seeing so many changes happen to Marathon in such a fast amount of time. They purposely make the earnable armor in game less attractive than the Eververse armor because the corporate stooges feel like it would deter from Eververse sales. Redditor wrote, and referring to a report from earlier this year claiming that Bungie leadership was worried that a set of trials of Osiris armor, also earnable through gameplay, was just too good and would cut into Eververse store sales. Well, that's a big problem, right? They don't want listen, they're not the only ones to do this. There's a lot of studios out there that do this, right? It's very famous that a lot of companies will make the gear that's earned in-game uglier, and then the gear that's bought in the store, they make it super epic, right? Diablo does this. If you look at Diablo 4, the gear in game, some of it looks good, sure, but none of it pales in comparison to some of the stuff that you could buy in their shop, right? Final Fantasy 14 has great looking gear. I think they're less egregious in my opinion, but they still sell amazing stuff on the store, and they sell mounts and shit like that that's only available in the store. So every one of these companies try to take advantage of this. Every one of these companies try to do this where they make the gear that's earnable for free less attractive so that it entices you to want to buy the gear on the store to either transmog or to utilize in some way, shape, or form. That's why they do it. They all do it. Others pointed out that this is bad PR at a time when Bungie desperately needs a win. The worst part about this is the fact that the community sentiment is so low and they aren't reacting. During previous lows, Bungie would overcorrect to generate some goodwill. Go Fast Update, Forsaken Silver Bundle, Free Prophecy, etc. They prioritize the community over their immediate revenue stream. They acted like the game was on fire and were in trouble. I don't get why they are not acting like the game is on fire now. Well, that's because it's all hands on deck with Marathon, right? I think that's why they're doing it. I think that they are so hands on trying to fix and change Marathon that they genuinely don't have time for Destiny. I know that sounds crazy, but they're really just utilizing Destiny and milking it. Like, that's all they're doing while they're trying to get all hands on deck with Marathon. They supposedly, according to the recent leaks that have come out for Marathon, they have completely changed the entire visual style of Marathon. Not only that, they've changed a lot of things in terms of the classes, the characters that you could utilize. They changed a lot of stuff. Whether it's for the better or for the worse, we don't know. All we know is, according to some people who have access to the game, they have changed a lot. So this is a big, big change, which requires a lot of hands-on work, especially since they're doing it in only a few months' time. They're sitting here and guaranteeing that the game is going to be out next year, at the beginning of next year, sometime, somewhen. That's only possible if they have everybody busting their ass to try to fix this game ASAP. So that's why I think Destiny is essentially being ignored at this point. Obviously, it's really a major issue, but at this point, they're just going to squeeze everything they can out of every little person that's playing the game right now. So you guys let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about this situation? If you're playing Destiny 2, are you upset that this piece of gear is not going to be available for free in the Iron Banner event and that you have to pay for it? Do you not even care? Do you not play Destiny? Have you stopped playing since part 1? Whatever it may be, let your thoughts be heard in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, consider hitting that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.